She's more on the buying and selling side.
So I stay out of the design. People make the mistake that I'm like Joanna Gaines, and I am not.
Okay.
He handles all the design. I handle basically just the real estate piece of it. So finding the properties, and then we look at the properties with his. He skipped over the part of where he was a home inspector for 6 years, and
that's a valuable skill.
Yes,
helps.
So it really helps that, and so we find the properties, and then it helps to have us both go look at those, because many times I have a different idea of them, and he said this is a really bad flip. So we go into them, and then he handles really everything with the Lawson residential crew, and we've been trying to shrink our time on these
the holding
flips,
cost.
down, and then we sell them, and at the end, and that's where I come into, and especially with my team as well. I have 2 buyers agents, and we find the buyers, and actually all of ours but one, I think at this point, have actually been under contract before they hit the market.
Hey everyone, my name is Ethan DeLeon, and I'm here with our founder and CEO of Small Nation, Jason Duff. Today, we're honored to have the entrepreneurs and developers, Chad and Brandi Lawson from Piqua, Ohio. We want to welcome you to the Small Nation podcast, where we share some of the valuable lessons with what we have learned about entrepreneurship, real estate, economic development, and more. The point of this podcast is to create value for you, the listener, and to create a space to learn, talk about what's trending, and inspire others.
Thank you, Ethan. Brandi, Chad, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so it's been a few years ago we met, and you came to Bell Fountain, and when you visited, things were a little different from when you actually came back and got to walk around town today a little bit, right?
Yes.
What did you notice?
I think actually the build was one of the big things that was under construction at that time.
Yep.
And I think that you had, you guys were really, looking forward to kind of getting that off the ground.
Did you tour when the raccoons were in there?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I think
you missed the raccoons.
We
okay.
missed the raccoons, but it was still well under construction. So here I'm talking with my hands again.
No. Well, everyone our listeners, we go through kind of this pre-coaching, and Ethan reminds. So I'm a talk with my hands person, and every time we touch the table or anything else, you get that nice little. Like vibrate that sound right there. So for those of you listening, thank you for putting up for me, because I'm the one mostly hitting the mics. But no, you're gonna do it.
Yep.
It's just what we do. So, yeah.
So that was one of the things. One of the first things we noticed when we got here was also, and this may be a small thing, but it was just the signs on the corners. And you had just kind of explained how you decided to do that, maybe a little bit without permission, but
we called it a public art project.
There you go. Yeah.
So the wayfinding signs have really been something that a lot of people, when they visit, they're one of the first things they comment on, because they're bright, they're colorful. They point out the kinds of businesses that are on the side streets that oftentimes in town get missed. And when I travel to other places, I love to look at what they do with signage. And brought that idea back actually from Napa, California. So if you want a reason to do some research and development, go look at the wayfinding signs in all Napa and then all the little towns around Napa.
Okay.
Jason loves Napa for several reasons.
I just do it for my health. The grapes
I'm sure.
Yes. I mean, you're health people. You
right,
know
we
this,
are.
right?
We are. Yeah.
See, okay. We subscribe to that.
That's awesome. So give us real quick, what are you guys currently doing? I know you guys have your hands in a lot, and I'm excited to dive into kind of where you got started. We'll walk through that journey a little bit. But I was amazed in our conversation just with how many parallels there are with the work that we're doing here. So maybe, I don't know, each of you can take a turn just sharing a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm going to let Brandi go first, because I really feel like this kind of started with more with her journey with real estate. So, if she can kind of go into that, and then that timeline's a little bit on when we kind of, purchased the gym and kind of started that vision.
Sure. So I actually was a teacher for 20 years in the Piqua City school systems. And then towards the end, I actually got interested in real estate. My mom has been a broker there for many years. So actually the last 3 years, I did both teaching and real estate. That almost killed me. So I decided to dive in completely. Started out as a buyer's agent for my mom for 8 years. Then in 2020, went over to Keller Williams on my own as an independent broker, or agent. With Keller Williams. And then it's been great. So I just actually started my team. We opened up an office actually just in the last couple weeks with my mentor, Pam Bornhorst. We opened up a Piqua office, and agents are just now filtering in there, getting moved in. So I've been mostly on the real estate end of what we have done, kind of finding the different real estate buildings and so forth, but staying on that. We also have a flipping business, which Chad will mention in a little bit. So a lot of what we do, we do it together. So that we met in 2014, and he was in construction at that time, and I'll kind of let you take over from there.
Yeah. So originally I'm from Lima. So my brothers and I had a construction business there. So we kind of started off roofing, not really knowing a lot of what we were doing, but just kind of learning on our own. Got pretty successful on that end of it. I broke away just to kind of go down my own, kind of carpentry path and do my own remodeling and things like that, which I did learn a lot because I just didn't want to stay focused on roofing alone. So that really gave me a lot of base for what I do now. But then, since then, after Brandi and I met again, I ended up moving to Piqua. So it just kind of gave me a fresh start. And, when you live someplace for a while and there's a lot of challenges, and Lima's a little bit bigger city, so it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So having having visions like this in a bigger area like that can be a little, like I said, overwhelming. So getting into Piqua, it felt more, obtainable for us. This kind of all stemmed from us. We were part of a CrossFit affiliate box there in Piqua, and the owners were kind of done, owning it. So we went in with a couple partners. We didn't want to see it close, so we bought it, and then it just kind of sparked my interest for always wanting to own my own gym. So it was just like, hey, let's do this and maybe find another location for it that fits better in our downtown. And during that process, our economic developer, Chris Measing, had been, which I'm sure
great guy.
He had reached out and was like, hey, we want to kind of share what we're planning in the downtown, some of the projects, and would love to see some private investment get involved. So we started looking for property that was going to be close to the development that was going on in the downtown, so we could be a part of that. So we did choose a kind of is a little bit of a rundown part of town along the river, but a really beautiful spot, along the Great Miami River and bike trail system. So
the rundown area, do we kind of call that the transitioning area?
It is, yeah.
I joke with folks because a lot of the work that we do is taking those areas that people, think that they're not safe or there's no hope. And then it takes, if the price gets right, you can then afford to buy it and then use your creativity, your hustle, your hard work, and actually make it better. And it sounds like that's kind of what you did for Piqua.
Yes. So we've really, we're not even done yet, but we've really been able to transform this block of this area. And we've brought in a national physical therapy, company, NovaCare. They've been absolutely great, and we sold them on this vision because it didn't look like,
didn't look so great
when
you started.
It's not their typical place that they would set up shop, So we sold them on this kind of sports and recreational area, and we had our CrossFit gym there, and at that time we had also brought in a sports enhancement group, No Name Athletics. And they've actually grown out of our space and are occupying a space across the street. We wanted to keep them close on campus there. That way we could continue to kind of grow that vision of sports and recreation down there.
Is that for more high school and college students? Or
yes.
What? Okay.
Semi-pro, pro athletes as well. So they've really had a really nice, group coming in. They've got athletes traveling from all over the place now. And so they're really starting to pick up some momentum. They've got some really talented trainers there.
So is it true that one way to really build your relationship is to go to CrossFit with each other?
It doesn't hurt. So yeah, I mean, we've had some really good times there, and we've, made some really close friendships, and we've kind of, to be honest, we've gotten so busy with what we're doing. I think this is a lot of people's stories. They can fall off of that, that everyday routine that they're in. And we've done that, so we're definitely ready to get back on and start building, ourselves back up along with everything else that we're doing.
Can you share why Piqua? And, the thing that we get a lot of times is, why would you want to move back to small town USA or even, Ohio? A lot of our guests that we have kind of share the small town story. But for you guys, you mentioned, Lima's right up the road, but is a larger city.
And you had a successful business. We decided leaving that. So, yeah, I'd love to hear that as well.
So I'm from Piqua, and so I think we always, when he moved in and when we got married, and we could just see all of it was a prime location for development, and we felt like Troy's a beautiful city, but it's already really developed. I mean, they're doing a great job there, but there's not as much that still can yet be done. Yeah, and Piqua also, there's a lot of investors that are interested, especially even with residential real estate, just because, or even flips or rentals for holds, or even commercial buildings, just because it's cheaper. It's cheaper there. So there's
opportunity.
There is opportunity. And I feel like Piqua just has a, and I think it is a lot, it's obviously it's its own, entity, I guess, in character and everything, and it has its own story. So it's just like, how do we, pull that, story back out of it, so, how can we go in and, start to bring things into it that, our community wants, that we want to see personally, at our age, but also, we have kids that, we don't want to see move away when they finish college or whatever. So it's like, how do we get them to want to buy into to this way of living in this small town feel? So we have to look at, how do we bring these bigger city amenities in, but yet keep our quaint little downtown that's easy to get around, and we can commute to Dayton, Cincinnati, to Columbus, Bell Fountain. So
love that.
Just wait. There's we're not that far from the bigger cities if we want to go, but my experience with the bigger cities is you don't know people. You don't, and that's what, for me personally, what I like about, being in Piqua versus Lima even, and I do feel like Lima was, for the size of it, was a little bit small town, as well. But this just had a really, really different feel for me.
For those of you that haven't visited Piqua, Ohio recently, some of my favorite things about the town, about Piqua and about the town you're working in is Barclays is a men's clothing store, and I think it might be 80 years, 100 years.
I don't even know.
It's been generations of suiting people with professional wear and business clothes. And, as you go to so many towns, they've lost that professional wear type of store, but Barclays is an anchor and still there in Piqua today.
Right downtown.
And then the other thing, I was just in Piqua a few weeks ago and had a chance to pick up a great cup of coffee at Winans Chocolates and Coffee, and also see that they just expanded and built a new roastery in town, which is right near one of your projects.
Right next door.
Next door.
Yep. And
yeah,
and Wilson's been, and him and I have had several conversations. He actually tried to buy our building, so
sure,
because which would have made sense, because he wanted to have all of his operation right close to each other. But great guy, young, has a lot of vision, and I'm excited to see what else he can bring as well.
Well, and you have a riverway that runs right through Piqua, and there's a lot of revitalization discussion right now and new investment of considering, there's a new brewery that just opened up.
Correct. Crooked Handle. And then lots of talks of more expansion with more loft apartments and renovations in town too. Yeah. So the downtown is really, and that's what, we had some unfortunate circumstances, as well as many, small towns and, across the country did with COVID. And it really, we had a really great project in the works, and some of that has, I don't know if it's going to pick back up. So
Not our project. It
not
was
ours, but yeah,
Right, some of the larger
project.
stuff.
but it was we were a part of that, and I think that's one of our struggles right now is, when that project didn't continue to move forward, we all bought into that project. So now the anchor of all of our projects is no longer happening, and so now we're trying to kind of pick up the pieces and say, okay, how do we keep moving forward without this major piece? And is it going to be the same? And maybe even how can we look at that project and maybe still make some of those opportunities happen? So
I love there's a meme that people have posted that has the word entrepreneurship. Have you guys seen it? And it's kind of got like, you start here and it goes like, and it's like, it talks about the progress, and you think like, oh, it's all
you think it's
linear,
linear.
and it's not. It's
definitely not.
It's a mess. Well, but one thing I think for those listening, you delivered some tough news, and your plans, a large investment that you made, you were kind of hoping that larger project would continue to happen, and now it's not. You're not giving up.
No.
Why?
correct.
I think that we still see. I think it really goes back to our community every time. It's just that we love the people in our town, and I feel like they're the behind the scenes rooting for us. And so I think part of it is we feel a little bit like we don't want to let people down. We do, like you said, entrepreneurs. It's hard. Last year we thought this is hard. Are we really cut out for this?
Yeah.
And
It's lonely.
It's
right?
not really last year. It's pretty much every year.
It really is. Yeah. So it's been tough, but I do feel like that we know what our town is capable of. And I know that it's one of those things where we always say we don't know if we're on the 5-yard line or the 50-yard line. So we can't give up now because we're almost there.
Yeah. Right.
So we just feel like if we keep on going, that this is going to happen.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about just like where you're at. But it's obvious to see some of the, like I said, parallels before of like, you guys started doing one thing and it bled into other things, and here you are now as like developers and making things happen and downtown, right? But like, as simple as the strategy of choosing where you're going to be doing this work, you mentioned being closer to big cities, you have the natural waterways or bike trails, things like that around. And so you like identified the spot as kind of like a first thing that I see, but then the second thing is you started with a gym. So tell me a little bit about the importance of having a gym. And I know you also wanted it to be 24/7, right? So
Yes.
Tell me in your block, in your area that you're developing, why was that decision important?
I guess I wanted to, just to speak on that a little bit, we do have, there is a new YMCA going in. So this was kind of one of the decisions, like we're like, we wanted to look at, like, I don't want to be competition necessarily, but I think that we're going to offer a different atmosphere than what the Y can offer. And I think that's part of, like, I'm not necessarily out there to be competition to my neighbor, but I want to be complementary to my neighbor. So I want to be able to give options to our community. So some people, the Y is not their thing, but they're going to love our facility. So I think that that's like a really, and I think it's just part of immersing ourselves in every day, downtown. Like we're going to work there every day. We're walking around. We're visiting the other stores, so starting to build our relationships with the other business owners who we haven't done enough of. And I think that that's really how we're going to be able to come together as a community, as a business community, and grow that downtown area, So I think that's really important why we kind of chose that location, not just for our gym, but also for, Keller Williams, for Dash and Joey's, Balance Yoga, so the whole kind of, synergy that we're creating in that one building, it also will show everybody else that owns a building down there that you don't just have to run your shop there, your business, but there's far more that can be done with that building to make it reach its full capability.
Chad and Brandi, appreciate that idea around the fitness and health spectrum. There's a diversity of needs out there. As we go into communities, some communities have a strong YMCA, others have one that maybe is not as strong or has limited hours or limited budget. but we want to keep the why strong. They serve a valuable purpose to the community. But one thing that we found is that where there were gaps is that a lot of the traditional gyms or community organized fitness facilities or school organized fitness facilities, they would close at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Yep. And so if you're a family that's working at Honda or working at a factory or a supplier and you're not that traditional first shift, you just don't have options.
Yep.
And so that was kind of where we were spending more time of understanding in a community the gaps that we're missing from a fitness perspective. And just like when it comes to yoga or it comes to spin, there is so many options that people are interested in learning more about that you can now provide at your facility.
Yep. Well, and I think we live in a, age where it's like, I think people are starting to pay more attention to what they're eating, where their food's coming from, getting some kind of a fitness routine, even if it's walking, on a treadmill or getting on the bike trail system. We're kind of, getting ourselves immersed in an area where, we can really promote, this active lifestyle. If you're close enough to bike or walk to work, do it. For one, it takes up less parking spaces in the downtown, and it helps. Thing to do, well, right? It's healthy and it helps the local businesses down there to free up parking. So there's just lots of little things that I think we can do as a as having our gym down there just to promote that kind of activity.
Well, wearing the real estate hat, so knowing you've got the driver of the fitness facility and people are coming to classes every day, how do you think about the things that complement that as maybe a recruitment strategy or filling other empty storefronts with businesses that complement the gym?
I think that's actually something we've been thinking about, even with how we actually created the Keller Williams building. We wanted to create more of a one-stop shop for our clients. So we brought in a lender, Loan Depot, and we brought in a title company, Sterling Land Title, and we brought in Elliott Insurance so that we could take that guesswork out for our clients. And so I think that's part of the whole vision is we think once we get them downtown, and like you said, we have all these things in one building or within walking distance for those different situations. But that is something that we're thinking about. And I think we're always looking to see what else is needed downtown and then try to find someone maybe who is already doing it successfully somewhere else.
What I love about Warren Buffett is that he is the contrarian. And so much of the real estate industry has moved to quote unquote the intranet. Mm-hmm. But it's good to kind of do and understand and be the opposite, where the problem is with the internet, it can't really serve clients well. No. You may think you're getting a cheaper price, but by the time you lack the service or a ball gets dropped or your closing doesn't happen because of the relationships that sometimes it takes to solve that. I just appreciate that you're doing something very different of investing in brick and mortar and building out the professionals and the services in that one-stop shop. And I think it's going to prove to be very successful for you.
I hope so. And I remember back when I was teaching, they kept telling us that one day, teachers were going to become obsolete. And what they found out, especially during COVID, is that
that didn't work so well.
Teachers are not obsolete, and it takes you just can't take all of that the personal connection out of it. And I think real estate is actually very similar to that. And I think that's why we retain so many of our clients for, repeat clients that come back over and over is just because, they're not just clients to us, they're part of our family by the time that we're done. And so your Zillows or whatever, they just can't offer that. So that's what we kind of pride ourselves on.
Well, and I think too, speaking of her bringing in the other businesses, but it's also, I think, and this goes back to her teaching background a little bit, but her being able to mentor and teach these new agents. So we hear from so many agents that go to other brokerages and even, just wherever else they're at, that they just, they sign on and then they're just kind of left to left go with no training or, nobody's kind of mentoring them and helping them. And, Brandi, one thing she does, and I think it's her teaching background, is she really can bring in a brand new agent and just work with them every day and make them into something great. So I think that, as young as this office is, and we have several new agents that she's brought in, I think she's going to reap the benefits of that in the next, 2 to 3 years as these agents start to mature and really be, find their own way in this, whole real estate thing. So
how did you develop confidence?
That's a great question.
That's funny because I wouldn't say that about myself, but I think in real estate, I definitely am. And I think honestly, it's just knowledge. I've just tried to just honestly learn as much as I could about the business and then hustle. And that's what I just have lived by. Because
if people look up to you, part of it is, I've been reading a lot about this term called imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. I just kind of crossed over that 40-year-old threshold. And for the longest time, I kept thinking like, oh, I'm that young entrepreneur that I'm always going to look up to someone else and they're going to fix the problems for you. And then there's like, oh, you're not young anymore. I know. And so it's like, you're the adult in the room yes. or the mentor, the advisor, the coach. And so it's like looking in the mirror and having confidence that you have the life experience and the knowledge. And I'm just curious how you think about that.
Yeah, and I think it comes from experience and it comes from, I actually, that is what actually surprised me, I think a little bit, is how much I love training and teaching the newer agents. And I never feel like it's sharing my secrets or anything like that. We don't live by a scarcity mindset, and we all think that we're just better together. So, it is a change. I remember even when I was teaching that I was the young one for a while, and then all of a sudden it's 20 years later and I'm not the young one anymore. But I did dive into real estate. I absolutely love what I do, and I do think that you do gain a lot of knowledge and power just by teaching, or just confidence. I shouldn't say power, but just by teaching others and sharing that.
So you brought up the scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. I call that the small town killer. Mm-hmm. Is that I go into too many places that are so afraid of someone else that has another idea. Mm-hmm. Either that idea is in the same industry that they're in, or it's something that's never been done that's going to completely change the way that people think about that town. And so people oftentimes will tear that person down thinking that you stole my idea.
Right.
How do you overcome that?
I think that is a really good question, but I feel like it's honestly my environment. And I think that when I came over to Keller Williams, I had never been almost immersed in so many, confident, successful women. And there was a few men, nothing wrong with that, but it was just the environment that I was put in. And I have really good mentors, and that it showed me, it gave me guidance, and it showed me that, I always had this itch that I was made for more. And I didn't want to teach because I was made for more. I didn't want to do this because I was made for more. And so until that itch, I did it. Until I don't feel that itch anymore, I feel like we have more to do yet. So.
How about you, Chad? How do you think about that scarcity mindset?
Honestly, I think it is a small town killer. I really feel like we're in that right now, and that's our biggest challenge. It's like, how do we, when there's an agenda out there that we're up against, and we're like, how do we get them to see our point of view? How do we get the help that is we know is out there, but how do we get them to turn it in our direction and say, look, we're doing something right now, and this, and you may be planning for something 3 years down the road, but how can we turn the direction towards us for a little while, help us get off the ground successful, because I can show you how it's going to benefit you guys to have this growth in between. And I think that's what we have to start to, when we talk about working in a relationship with our city, it's like, how do we become a little closer, and what can I do for you, kind of a mindset, how can I help? And I really wish for that relationships to start to be created, because I think it's going to be a lot harder for us if we can't start to build that.
Yeah, it can be lonely at times. The other thing that we try to spend a lot of time coaching on is that you have your customers in your local market, but a lot of your business, you mentioned you've practiced as a buyer's agent. And so sometimes you're finding people from out of town or people that moved away that want to come back to Piqua, and they want to know what the quality of life amenities and experiences are. And you may find that there are people that live in Troy or Tip City or Bell Fountain that say, I love to take the day trip to Piqua and I want to spend my money there. So there's the tourism factor. And so I think where the mindset of the scarcity is sometimes they're just thinking in their tiny little 5-mile radius, when we can actually market today and sell our products on the internet and catch the attention of the world to spend money in Piqua, Ohio.
And what I love too is you guys, you know, in our conversation before, you talked about how like one of your biggest hearts behind some of the stuff you're doing is that by your investments and things you're doing in Piqua, that you invite more of that to, which is kind of like counterintuitive to that mindset, right? So would you like to share on that at all a little bit?
So yeah, go ahead, babe. Why don't you start?
You can go ahead.
Team effort.
I guess, can you frame the question again?
So, I mean, just like seeing, I think what he's saying is that seeing, instead of competition, you want to see a diversity of options in your industry, because it's like that, then your town is known for those things.
So an example, I guess, and maybe this is an example, but so I've got a friend that just opened a Clean Eats restaurant. So, we're getting ready to open a Dash and Joey's, kind of similar.
Dash and Joey's.
Yeah. So, similar, healthy options and things like that. So why would I want to, why would I not want to be the only healthy option in our downtown? Because is that going to drive all the healthy eaters to me? No, I want them to have, because they're not going to eat at my place every day, and so them having some healthy options, me helping to support, them potentially coming into our downtown, and I know they're looking at Troy, so we're trying to get them, but so, but I never look at, and Brandi said it earlier, we just don't look at it as competition. We, and I don't need to own the building. It can be somebody else's building. If I can find a tenant for them that I think will be, a positive asset to our downtown and community, then, by all means, I'm going to go out there and try to pull them here, if I can. And, and we kind of talk about this because it's like when we started all this, it was like, the only time we talk about money is how we're going to pay for things. We never talk about money in a way that how much we're going to make or any of that stuff. So there's so many things that we go out and do, and
your heart's
meetings,
in it. And you can hear that. And I think when your heart is in it, you win financially too. But we talk a lot about on the podcast that money and energy are kind of the same kind of currency. And so if you put a lot of hard work and passion and heart into a project, you deserve to be financially rewarded for it. And those things take time, but I love that. And a big congratulations on Dash and Joey's.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite lunch spots here in town. And for those people that know me, I sometimes am so excited about working that I forget to eat. And health-wise, that is not a good thing to do.
Right.
So the go-to is the Die Hard 2. If you've not been to Dash and Joey's, the fresh squeezed juices and protein shakes and acai bowls, it is a menu of not just powder, like real fruits, vegetables, nutrition.
Everything's fresh.
And for me, like being on the go, if I don't eat well, like it messes everything up. And so I just really appreciate Dash and Joey started in Lima, Ohio. Second location was Walpock. Third location is here in Bell Fountain, and things are on the way for Piqua. So
correct.
Great.
Yeah, we're super excited. So yeah, it's and it's it's a franchise opportunity that really does allow you to have some put your own kind of spin on it, as well, outside of changing the menu, but as far as the atmosphere and stuff you want to create, it really, was up to us. So that was really a nice draw to it, because we're able to put our own little spin on it, and it just makes it fit our town. So,
well, we've had some folks on the podcast, and I think that's the opportunity. You have started some businesses on your own, like your fitness facility,
yes,
but you've also licensed for the brokerage, brands like Keller Williams. And then now you're using a licensee kind of business or franchise with Dash and Joey's. Can you kind of speak, because you've done both, what are the pros and cons of going the path of actually working with a franchisee versus doing something just on your own?
I guess for me, it's like, if it's not broke, somebody else went out, put the time, hard work, and effort into into creating that product. And, for me, it's just, we're very busy and probably too busy to start our own product line, to start that from scratch, so why not come in and partner with somebody that's already done it, has spent years developing it, perfecting it. Now we have this great product. We can come in and we're not, so tied for the next 2 or 3 years making it, building it, that we can't do anything else. So it just kind of streamlines for us because of what we're doing. Now, if somebody was, just passionate about opening their own business and that was their focus, then maybe, starting something from scratch would be their thing. But
I think
for
it's
us,
just helpful for people listening that are entrepreneurs like you is that they maybe have an investment they want to do. They want to see their town be better. And I think you shared a few different options of not only the real estate brokerage business, being able to build a fitness facility and gym. And then the third is actually using a licensee, a franchise type business to actually incubate and grow a juice bar in the town.
Yeah, and what I hear from that, and I'd like to say that this is the kind of development we like to promote here on the podcast, but is, first of all, you were not afraid to get started. You were doing your own thing in your entrepreneurial venture, but then you created solutions to problems that were, or things that you saw coming up, and I feel like that's very much part of our DNA here is like, whether you're partnering with somebody else or you're doing it yourself, things like that, you are not afraid to create those solutions.
Right.
So I'm curious now with where we're at in the residential real estate world, currently, what does that layout look like for Piqua right now? Are you guys getting into residential at all?
We are. So we do, we got into residential holds for a minute, but we just found out we're not good landlords. So we just...
And that's
a good thing to know.
Distinction. Yeah. And can you explain, in the spectrum, you mentioned you're doing flips, right?
Yes.
So for someone just listening, what's a flip?
Okay, so we buy a home that needs completely renovated. So we buy it cheap, fix it up, and flip, hopefully for a profit.
Well, and
we all learn the first few flips that we do. What do you mean? It's just like HGTV, right?
No, it's nothing like that.
Property Brothers.
No, I know. All of the above. And that's funny because so many people, that's their only really knowledge going into this. So it is an eye-opening experience. We have done, I don't even really know, maybe 9, 10 flips.
Is that a way to strengthen your relationship too?
actually, we surprisingly...
We work pretty well together.
Oh, that's
actually.
a plus.
Yes.
Okay, good.
She's more on the buying and selling side.
I
So,
stay out of the design. People make the mistake that I'm like Joanna Gaines, and I am not.
Okay.
He handles all the design. I handle basically just the real estate piece of it. So finding the properties, and then we look at the properties with his, he skipped over the part of where he was a home inspector for 6 years. And
that's a valuable skill.
Yes.
Helps.
So it really helps that. And so we find the properties, and then it helps to have us both go look at those, because many times I have a different idea of them, and he said, this is a really bad flip. So we go into them, and then he handles really everything with the Lawson residential crew. And we've been trying to shrink our time on these
the holding
flips.
cost.
Yes. Down, and then we sell them, and at the end, and that's where I come into, and especially with my team as well. I have 2 buyers agents, and we find the buyers. And actually, all of ours, but one, I think at this point, have actually been under contract before they hit the market.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
we're starting to get a reputation, because like I said, Brandi will go in and she'll do TikTok videos and things like that. She was blogging for a little while, which I know she likes to write, and I always try to encourage her. But
in all my spare time, I need to get back to writing.
Things get
I'm just
busy.
impressed that you're on TikTok and trending there.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
nice.
I'm not.
I don't know about trending.
I tell you what, she's honestly, she doesn't give herself enough credit for that kind of stuff, because she does do a lot of it, and people like to hear your story. You know, they want to know you, and I think that really makes a difference. But she had a blog, and it was If These Walls Could Talk, and
I
so
like that. Okay.
so we get in there and we find some baby shoes in the closet, in one of the walls, or
walls.
whatever we find in there, and then we found letters and different things like that. So she would write a little bit about that, and then kind of explain the story as we went through this flip, and it really got people kind of following it. And so now they look for our sign, and we're always getting phone calls, like, hey, I want to see this as soon as it's available, that kind of thing. But and something else we've really been trying to do is, we come into a neighborhood and we don't always, it's not always the cheapest house or whatever, but we look at it from a standpoint of, if you look at almost any neighborhood in the older neighborhoods, we have the highest comps in those neighborhoods because that's what we do. We go in and we push the comps in those neighborhoods.
Which is that's another contrarian thing, because don't they teach you not to have the highest most expensive property in the neighborhood?
Right, but we're trying to push those property values up. So then the next investor now has a comp.
Benefits from that.
Yes.
Which, but again, thank you for doing that. But I think most traditional real estate investor coaching, they would say, don't be on the cul-de-sac and don't have the highest property in the neighborhoods.
Yeah. Well, and again, we have to set, now we can get those comps in those neighborhoods. And there's still, the thing is, these neighborhoods that we're going in, they're very saturated with rental properties. A lot of them are not in great condition, and things like that. So we're really trying to work on that balance of that, rental population versus homeowners. Right now it's pretty high for Piqua, and especially in certain areas. So we're just trying to tip that back a little bit. So we're trying to go into these neighborhoods and create these comps, so that way it makes it easier for us when we go in to buy a property and pick that up. And most of these are, complete guts, and we're redoing everything, and we're using higher end products than I think a lot of people flipping in these neighborhoods probably would, but but we want to see change. We want to see, and we're not going to see that if we do, what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, we're not discussing it enough right now, but the shift of institutional money that is investing in rental properties, especially single family homes in smaller markets, is significantly changing the landscape of our towns and communities. I am a big proponent of local investors and local landlords that have a vested interest in seeing the town succeed, but a lot of that institutional money that has no connection to our towns and communities is usually not a good thing.
Yeah, we see it all the time, especially as we have some older property owners that are getting out of the business, and they're selling off to out-of-state investors that don't even set eyes on the properties, probably never will. So
we one thing that I'm curious, in the interest rate environment that we're in, we of course have seen rates almost double from 4% that to nearly, in some commercial deals, 8% or more. How does that impact how you are thinking about things as an investor?
I think that for me, as far as my business goes, we've definitely seen a shift in the real estate market. I don't think it's really affected a lot of what we have done, even though the interest rates have been a little bit higher. As far as our flips go, we still have low inventory. So there's
still incredible demand.
There's still incredible demand, and we're still having multiple offers on our properties. So as an investor, at least for our flipping business, it's not affecting us really at all.
Especially in a certain price point, so, we hit that kind of median, price point, probably anywhere from like 120 to like 220, 250, anything in between there is like, just flying off, and it's not staying on the market for more than a couple of days. So, and
as far as our long-term investments, I feel like you just have to ride the wave, right? It's all going to ebb and flow. It's all going to come back. And you just have to be patient. All of our long-term investments are just that, long-term investments.
And I think that is a really good reminder in terms of advice that, yes, interest rates are, in the time that we have known them in the last 20 years are at record highs. But you go back another 20 years to our parents and grandparents, and the rates that we have been experiencing have not been normal. No. And so it's kind of retooling your perspective, but it does, put a little more pressure when you are structuring a lease or a deal. Those costs have to be covered somewhere. Yep. And so I think, I had a chance to be interviewed on CNBC Squawk Box last week, and Kate Rogers, the reporter from CNBC, was asking about, where we're depending on getting our lending, because there's been a lot of, with the collapse of SVB Bank, there's been a lot of questions about where you keep your money, where you keep your deposits. And kind of the theme of the interview that I had was that I still believe that community banks and local banks are one of the most important resources to entrepreneurs. But at this point, we are having conversations with anyone that is lending and re-looking at our lines of credit, re-looking at where our cash is coming as we're prospecting future deals too. Are you guys, do you do a lot of work with community banks, or do you do more regional or larger institutions?
I mean, some, I should say, but mostly with larger right now. But we're exploring that a little bit right now, and we're actually, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and
sure is. Doesn't seem to be slowing down.
No, and so we're thinking ahead about that a little bit too, and I feel like we were kind of go for a while there, and I think for us right now, we're gonna just tighten things up, pull back just a little bit, free ourselves up a little bit, from some of the hold properties that we don't necessarily have a plan for right now and stuff, just till this kind of maybe subsides, or we at least see what direction it's really going, because just from a safety standpoint on our for our business and future business, we want to make sure those get off the ground without a hitch, and that we can build them strong over the next couple of years. So
that's great.
Love that.
One last question I wanted to kind of tackle before we, start to round out this episode, but we get asked all the time is where to find the capital, right, to get the ball rolling.
Do you have a money tree? No?
Yeah.
Only.
So, I mean, talk to us about funding, your projects, banks, grants out of your own pocket. Like,
man,
Well, let me pipe in here originally. Okay. So just to let you know about timing here, when we went under contract on our gym facility, it was February of 2020.
Oh, great timing. Congratulations.
Right? So as you know, world shut down and they stopped lending to gyms at that time. So from the very beginning, that's been a major struggle for us. And we have done the majority of what we've done out of pocket or funded through our flips and my real estate business. We've pretty much tackled everything that we could. We've
used hard money. We've got a hard money lender who's been really great, and
Michael Clary has been amazing at Miami County.
Yep, Miami. Yeah, he's we've got some ARPA funds, things like that have come in. Just
not a lot.
Every
really,
little bit.
It
counts,
does.
though.
I tell you, and when you, it's hard to get banks to want to lend to you these days, not like it used to be. And it's so you have to be pretty golden, and you have to be sitting on probably as much money as you need, before they really want to give you any more, because they want to make sure that they're good.
That's right.
And, and that's the unfortunate part, I think, for, especially for young entrepreneurs or anybody in getting into, owning their own business, especially development is insane. I don't even know why we do this sometimes. Like it's just like
great sales pitch.
I know, right? But no, I mean we love it, but it's just like it's the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge. I always say if that was the one, if I didn't have to worry about that, we'd be years ahead right now. And it's really a deterrent, for what we do.
So as you dream, what's next? Like as your, let's say time and resources were not limited, what's next for you guys?
Man, I mean,
we'd have Dash and Joey's open. We
Yes.
would
Love
have
that.
the
Okay.
24-hour gym open, and we would probably explore our next option.
I mean, we've talked about coffee shop / breakfast restaurant type situation. We've talked about bourbon bars and wine bars, and
I mean, who
Man,
doesn't
all
want
those
a bourbon
things
bar
sound
and
great
wine
to
bar?
me.
we've just the opportunity to create some nice quality living in the downtown areas. These lofts are just sitting there rotting away, and it drives me crazy because
Huge opportunity in Piqua.
These buildings are really cool in the upper levels, and they just sit and be used as storage. So I think that there's just so many opportunities down there for us, to get involved in some other things. And I think, and we're going to eventually, get there. It's just, timing and everything will get us there. And I think just building a really strong, anchor business in our downtown like we're doing, and getting those businesses open in this year, sitting tight for a couple years, letting them get stronger, and then I think we won't have so much of the difficulties when it comes to the banks and things like that.
If there's someone listening that you're looking for this, it could be a business partner, or could be a professionals, or anything that you say, I really wish we could find this, or I'm looking for this to grow. What you guys are doing what would that be?
I think it's like looking for, we've talked to several potential investors, so we've tried to go the, private investment route. I think, I'm more of a visionary. I'm not the guy that's going to sit and write this perfect business plan and slide it over to you that the numbers look, really great and they're going to be like, I'm in, so sure. I think, part of what we're missing is some of that. We've put together what we can and stuff, so we're trying to get some of that going a little bit better, so we can kind of map out our vision a little bit better, and then just looking for really somebody that has a vision themselves that can be a little bit complementary to what the way I think, and I think that's not super easy to find, maybe. But
Entrepreneurs by nature, we are constitutionally unemployable. Yes. So does that say anything?
100%.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's awesome.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree with them. I think that we talk about that all the time, that's been the biggest struggle and hurdle for us, and that I love what I do. We love what we do together. That's been, I think, the most stressful part of everything is just figuring out how to fund everything. So it would be nice to get that piece of the puzzle figured out so that we can go back to having a marriage.
It only gets better the more businesses you get, right?
Right. And when she says that, it's more about, having conversations outside of business. Mm-hmm. We are, we're so immersed in it constantly, and we're always trying to figure it out. So, and a lot of it's on the financial side, so it just consumes like your thoughts all the time. So,
Mm-hmm.
We go home in the evening and we're still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We go to bed and we get up in the morning, we're still talking about
Mm-hmm.
it. So it'd be nice to be able to have some separation from that, and be able to, have a relationship again that involves like, hey, where do we want to go on vacation that we haven't been on for a couple of years, and, and things like that. So
love that. Yeah. And then I know you're really proud of your team that you're building. Do you want to share a little bit about them and about the team that you're creating right now?
I do. So two of our team are sitting to the right of me, Leanne and Casey. They've
been saying woohoo, and I've been hearing little things every here and there.
And they're our biggest cheerleaders, honestly. Mm-hmm. And they've been, I think, Leanne's been with us just over a year, mm-hmm. and Casey just almost a year. And really, and which is funny because in my mind, I really planned on having things open before this, but as we know, things change and things keep getting pushed out. So they've really hung in there, and but I still feel like it's so important to kind of build this from with them, instead of necessarily bringing them on later. And then I have to get them up to speed and everything. These guys are, they've been in it from the ground up, and they're going to be able to slide right in to their role and just take it, head on. So, and I think that, and they, they're my sounding board, a lot. They tell me when, something sounds stupid and I shouldn't do that, or,
they tell them the truth.
So they're brutally honest with me.
And we need people in our life that will be those, hey, just want to give you some feedback on this, It's like,
yes. And I just, actually Casey's husband, I just brought on as a project manager, for the construction side. So Tyler's going to be phenomenal with, just taking kind of some of that off my plate as well. The 30 trips to Home Depot and, things like that, really consume a lot of my time. Yeah. I would rather be, tracking down potential investors or new businesses to come to Piqua and things like that, or, planning, the opening of Dash and Joey's and the opening of our new gym. So
excited for you with that. That's
those
great.
things are going to take a lot of my time, and I really need to have people in place that are going to do the job that they're hired to do without me micromanaging them.
Yep.
So,
yep, that's it.
Love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been a great episode. I think a lot of our listeners in the real estate and then the development side as well, just resonate with what you're saying, and that you guys aren't alone. Like, a lot of people are expressing the same, frustrations, same, going through a lot of the same stuff. So I think by hearing your story, it helps, our listeners go through their challenges as well.
And I think too, the where you're at in the stage of the opening up a number of businesses, and you've got more that are on the way. It's what I'm excited. If there are people listening on this podcast and you've been thinking, hey, I've got a connection in Piqua, Ohio, or I've been wanting to invest there. You and your team are people that have conduits for opportunities.
Yep.
And I'm amazed in some towns there are people that are standing on the sidelines that have capital they want to deploy, but they can't find people like you that can actually have the operating businesses, the plans to help them get a good return. Right. So I think that this podcast is another source of not only highlighting a great town that is developing and growing and new businesses are opening up, but it could be a great opportunity too. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
And I like the theme with this episode of being partners in business and life. That is freaking hard to do. And I think, I heard some of it today, but, being a product of third generation family business, I watched my grandparents and my parents go through the ups and downs. There were days that you're on cloud nine when you're working together and, you have a great, sale or great event and then there are days where you're completely drained or scared or frustrated or hurt. And that was my childhood. And I don't want to change anything about that, but for people that on looking from the outside in, you have no idea how completely exciting, exhilarating, bonds that pull you together, but also how difficult, scary, awful it can be.
Yeah.
All of the things, right?
Perfect.
All the
It's
things.
exactly how you said it.
It is, but I think we do it well. So
I sense
do.
that.
That's
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you guys. Great show today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us.
Absolutely. So what were some of the professional development resources that were impactful for either of you along your journey? Could be a class, could be a mentor, could be podcast. We're just talking
Actually,
about
I have my mentor, I think, and obviously in real estate, Pam Bornharsh has been amazing for me. But as far as podcasts, actually, I've just gotten into them over the last year. But there's a wonderful one out there, Everything Life and Real Estate, and it's just great. It's about life. It's about real estate. It's just amazing, and they're two. They are Keller Williams. They are with Keller Williams, but they don't just talk about Keller Williams. They talk about everything life and real estate. So that's been a great one. It's been impactful in my business as far as real estate goes.
That's great. It's a new one.
Yeah, and I need to be better about reading it and doing listening.
Don't let him
You're
lie
learning.
to you.
You're learning on the streets.
I read to him. Don't let him lie.
So she does read to me a
Actually,
lot,
one of the
so-
best books we read together, and he actually read with his team also, was Who Not How, Dan Sullivan. And I think it's Dan Sullivan. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Strategic coach.
but it's strategic coach, and that was, and I think that was at the point where I knew we needed to bring some people on because I couldn't be everybody Chad needed me to be, and wife and business and have my own career. And so that is actually when we read that book. When I read it to him the first time,
It clicked.
It's when
Yes.
and that's actually the first person we brought on board was Leanne after that. So
well, and that sparked our, we started a book club with my team, and we were, we've gotten away from it a little bit, but it was really nice because we would meet once a week, and we would talk about what we read and how it impacted what we've so I'm not just seeing it from my point of view, but my teams as well. So so they're kind of sharing that information with
It's
me.
a cool thing
So
to do.
yeah, yep.
Love that. And then last thing, I know it's kind of hard because you have multiple businesses here, but where can people follow you or keep up with what's happening? I will link as much as I can in the description,
Gosh.
but if you wanted to shout something out.
Yeah. My wife is better on the social media train than I am. So
yeah, mine probably would just be Brandi Lawson at Keller Williams Hometown, and it's the Lawson Group. We just broke into a team last month, I guess, or actually this month.
Yeah.
So that's where you can find us on Facebook and Instagram
And TikTok.
And TikTok.
And you're on TikTok.
But I haven't perfected that yet, so stay off of there for a minute.
Hey, I respect you for going for it.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Jason, you have a recap for us here?
Yeah, no, it's just partners in business and life. You guys are working to master that, and I think a great example for others. So appreciate you sharing today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and checking out the Small Nation podcast. You can find us anywhere that you listen to your podcast, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even the Small Nation YouTube channel. I hope you were able to pull some value from that conversation, and we hope to see you in the next one. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, comment, or a 5-star review to help more people to discover this podcast. Stay tuned to Small Nation on social media to keep up with all the cool projects that are happening here. And until next time, this is Ethan with the Small Nation podcast signing off.